All right. Today I want to talk about the fear of freedom and overcoming the fear of freedom. And the first thing I'm going to say is this is based, I got a question from Sudarshan, who goes by SBC in the comment section now. And he said, why would a married man choose to be enslaved? And he was talking about the fantastic, groundbreaking book by Esther Villar in a German woman in the 1970s, The Manipulated Man that I talk about. And so in that book, she says that men are, really yearn to be enslaved by women, and women happily enslave men. And it was I think that was really the first book might even be the first book of the men's rights movement, of the men's movement. And it was written by a woman, and it is a great book. I mean, that book is, you talk about groundbreaking, you talk about balls. That book is just, considering it was the very first book of its genre, and it was hated. That book was hated. That book was never available in any library. My mentor, Don, told me about that book. And he was, at the time when I knew him, he's passed away now, but that was 91 when he told me about that book. And he said that book was always, people would check that book out of the library and then throw it away. And so the library never had that book. So there was a way of censoring books that people didn't like a book back in the day before the internet. And you could just, because it wasn't available in bookstores, because bookstores didn't have the long tail they have now of books on order. You just basically, it was too slow and cumbersome. Basically, big titles were more available, right? Today with the internet, it's called the long tail, right? You can get millions of titles. You can write a book yourself and it can be easy to buy. It wasn't like that before. So a book that was unpopular with certain groups was impossible or very difficult to buy back then. And it was very difficult to self-publish too. It was very expensive. So the library was the big thing. And so people would throw these books away from the library and they'd only have one copy. So that would stop a whole city from reading a book, right? Very powerful mechanism for banning books without technically banning books. Okay, but back to the idea of freedom. So I want to answer this one. So talking about the fear of freedom, it's very easy to talk in flowery language about freedom. It's very easy. And I think most people do this. Most quotes about freedom they're just very ethereal. They're not down and dirty. And I want to do really both in this episode. I want to give you some tools, or at least a mindset that actually can help you to achieve more freedom, or a concept that will allow you a framework in your mind that will give you something to consider, something real that you can start to think about, plan around, conceptualize. You're trying to understand what you would do with that option, right? And it's very powerful. It's something I learned after I traveled around the world in my early 20s. I'll just tell you right now, I traveled around the world. I spent 13 months and I went to many, many countries. I went all the way around the world. And in that time, I stayed at inexpensive places. So youth hostels, dormitories, mountain huts, jungle houses. Just in Europe, it was more about being in campsites, campgrounds, or camping where there was no campsite, like in Sweden, where you can camp anywhere legally, camping all over the place, or finding people along the way, girls staying in their houses, things like that. Basically, very inexpensive places to stay. And this blew my mind. I remember when I got back to California, this sounds like a very simple thing, right? My average cost for lodging was $10 a night for the whole 13 months, $10 a night. And there are tons of places that are much inexpensive than that. So for example, in Indonesia, I stayed in a place that was 50 cents a night on the edge of a cliff overlooking Lake Toba. It included breakfast for 50 cents a night. And it was just, I woke up in the morning and I was on the cliff of a volcano looking down at a lake that was created, a crater from a asteroid back in the day. Or no, it might have been a super volcano. Yeah, it might have been. That's what it might have been. Yeah. Anyway, it was like a crater. It looked like a volcano, and there's a lake in it. It's just absolutely stunning, right? And I was on the edge, the very like rim of the thing, and I woke up, and I thought, and the guy delivered my food. When I went to the like little kitchen kind of area he had, and he made the food. And it was 50 cents for the night, including the breakfast. And I remember sitting there. And it was cold, actually. It was kind of cold that morning, actually. I don't know why. I felt cold, even in Indonesia that day. And I was looking down at the lake, and the lake was just crystal clear. And I looked at him, and he was smiling. He was happy I was there, because he had what had happened is I had been hiking, crossing the island of Sumatra, and I had a travel book, the Lonely Planet book, but it didn't have any list of places to stay in that area. So I just started asking locals. I needed a place to stay. It was getting dark. And so I just said, hey, do you know anybody who, lets people stay in their house, lodging? And sure enough, they said, oh yeah, that guy down there, he will do it. He does it for travelers. I was like, okay. So I walked over there, and, he couldn't speak English, but he was very nice. Put me in my room, gave me a blanket. And I spent the night, and it was a strange situation because there was no sign. There was no, obviously internet booking. I didn't know I was going to have a place to stay. I didn't know what I was going to do that night. And I was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around. There's no lights. There was no electricity. And all of a sudden I'm in this house, totally comfortable, spent the night, and I woke up to this just epic view. And I remember sitting on that volcano edge, and it was almost like it looked like I was falling off the volcano. That's how far it went off the edge. It was incredible, actually. It was this creaky wooden structure, and I just was exhilarating freedom that moment because I thought of California and how rigid everything is. There's laws for everything. There's lawyers all over the place. Everything is very restricted and expensive, and everything is decided in California. Everything is fucking decided. That's what I don't like. In these third world countries, what I really like about third world countries is there is freedom to decide things yourself, or to make something or do something. Like there's nothing holding you back. You just have to come up with a plan, come up with a way. You're not protected by the law. You're not protected by the police. But sometimes that doesn't really matter that much, actually, believe it or not. Like if you provide value, you can get things done in life, and people will go along with stuff. I disagree with the idea that if we don't have the government or police all the time, in every moment, everything's going to fall apart. Because I've seen many situations where, just intelligent people get along and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. You can do that. As long as you do that, you can do that. And then the locals are like, that's cool. As long as you do this and do that, that's fine. But that moment of freedom, I was sitting there and I was probably 22, 23, and I'm looking over that fucking volcano. And when I paid him the 50 cents, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the reality that people lived in California. Because even in that time, in 1991, I had paid $100 a night for a hotel room in San Diego. I went to a convention in San Diego in 87 or 88. And my friend wanted me to go, and I went, and I had to rent my own hotel room. And it was, I think, $110 or something. And I remember like $110, and it was kind of lonely. It wasn't very fun. You wake up in a hotel room, it's not that great. It's just like, it's not that great. And even if it's a nice hotel room, and this nice guy making me the breakfast and the view of the volcano and the feeling of exhilaration that I had done it again. I had figured a solution out, because there was a sense of accomplishment I had. And there was this just exhilarating freedom I had, feeling of fucking freedom, like, God damn it, this is so exciting, like it sounds so simple, but it really is, when you experience that feeling in the third world, and you've left the first world, you're going to know what I'm talking about. It really restructures your whole brain of what is possible and what people are putting up with and what is worth putting up with, you know? Like a lot of life is about knowing what your options are. Just simply knowing that there are options. That's it. Just simply knowing. You know, I was talking to Nelson here. He's from Malaysia. And he was talking about how you can have a fantastic meal for like $2 on the beach in Malaysia. And we were looking at a restaurant in Austin where they were paying like, you know, probably $90 for two people to have a romantic dinner, you know, quote unquote romantic dinner. And he was telling me like you get better food in a much nicer location for $2 in Malaysia and in places where he grew up. And I was thinking to myself, like, if those people paying $90, like if that guy paying I was looking at the restaurant, we're looking at it from afar, and you could see that a lot of the women that were there was like a balcony, right? And they were not very attractive. Okay, let's just put it that way. And they were paying $90. The guys were paying about $90 because it was like one of these, you know, kind of high-end places in Austin, next to this mosquito-y part of the river. Okay, so it wasn't a beautiful crystal clear. It wasn't like heaven. It wasn't like Hawaii. It wasn't like the Maldives. It was pretty murky, and there was like broken branches, and there was plastic, garbage. It wasn't like I don't want to make it look like it was an infested den. It just wasn't. It wasn't an epic sight. Like, let's put it that way. It was okay. Definitely, it was okay. It was worth eating dinner there. But in comparison, that's what I'm talking about. When you know what else is out there, and you're paying $90, it's a travesty. Like I cannot be the same person because I know what is available. I know the quality of prime rib females that are available in the world. And so that insulates me. So this is what I'm talking about with freedom. Okay, it's one thing to know that you could be free. Okay, so one of the concepts I thought of when I was young, I walked out of the house and I walked on this certain path. Okay, a certain way that I always walk. And I remember after coming around the world, I came back and I looked at that path and I thought, if I kept walking on that path, I would go to the edge of the continent and eventually would end up taking a boat to the other continent or an airplane. And I would be able to walk on that continent and then take a boat or an airplane. And eventually what would happen was I would end up walking all the way around the world. Like, so my path, not only was it in the same direction every day, but it stopped at the same place, right? And I remember thinking, because before that never crossed my mind, that when you walk out that door, your door is really it's an avenue to total freedom. I never thought about that before, that I could leave that door and never come back. And I could continue until I crossed around the world. But after I went around the world and I did it, I didn't walk all the way, but I walked a fuck ton, right? And I took mainly trains, boats, automobiles, bicycles, and walking. I didn't fly much. I only flew when I had to. Even across Trans-Siberian, I took the Trans-Siberian Railroad. You know, I very limited flights. I only took flights where I didn't know of a boat that was available. You know, I didn't know. I preferred a boat. If there was a boat, I was going to take a fucking boat because I prefer to be on the earth. I prefer my way of travel. I prefer to be on the planet, and just because you miss so much when you fly over, you miss so much, and the boat you miss a lot because you're not swimming. I'd prefer to swim and walk around the world. That's my basic viewpoint. But you have to make compromises. And a train can be a very good compromise. A boat can be a very good compromise. And still keep the spirit of things. Because on a boat, I've taken many 48-hour boat rides, and they are unbelievable. They are unbelievably beautiful. You cannot believe the beauty of waking up on the deck of a ship. And I'm not talking about a cruise ship. I'm talking about a rough boat, you know, even a boat that you had to bribe your way to get on, like an oil tanker or a ferry or there's a lot of different kinds of boats in the world that you can't even, I know there are names for. Like they look like junkyards. There's just garbage all over the deck. I've been on boats like that, and it's the sense of freedom. There's no rails or anything. There's nobody telling you what you can do. Like there's no staff even on some of these boats. Like I've been on boat rides that are 48 hours long, and I never met one other person on the boat that worked for the boat company. There was one guy driving the boat, the whatever you call it, the captain or whatever. He was up in this thing, and he never came out. Like I never saw him. He was just dark windows. It was like this. It was almost like a robot boat, just navigating relentlessly through the ocean, and it was a huge storm. And I had some very big adventures on that boat, actually. But the idea was that I was totally free. There was no rules, anything I could do. I could go to there was like a disco. They had like a disco room, but there was no people because nobody could leave China at the time. So it was this huge boat that was empty. And it was me, a couple Swedish guys, this Japanese girl I was sleeping with, and she was a really nice girl, actually, Rika Chan. And there was these I think there was 3 Swedish guys. So it was like me and 2 or 3 Swedish guys, a Japanese girl, and a captain inside his thing and never coming out. That was it. In a big boat in a big storm. And it was weird because I was so used to not being free. In America, you're never free. Like, Sean said something. Pensacola Sean said something the other day. He said, when you go, you can't just do things in America. Like anytime there's like nature, it's part of a national park or it's private land. So you can't explore the earth like you can in the third world, just because of that very simple thing. If it's a beautiful place, like I climb, I like to rock climb up waterfalls, right? That's one of my favorite things to do. I learned it from this guy I used to teach with back in Japan, Sato-san. He taught me that you can climb up slippery waterfalls and using these Japanese sandals called waraji. Using waraji, you can climb up a slippery waterfall covered in slime, even over vertical, and survive. I used ropes most of the time, but I never fell. So, I never needed the ropes. There's one thing when you use ropes and then you're like pulling on the ropes. I never did that. Anybody who rock climbs, you're going to know what I'm talking about, the difference, right? I climbed the fucking thing. And many times, it's a place called Tanzawa in Japan. Close to Tokyo, excellent climbing. I think it's called stream climbing, the Japanese call it. Of course in Japanese, but stream climbing is the English name. And it's fantastic. And I could just go up the waterfalls. And there was no rules. It didn't pay for anything. You just basically start climbing. And he had grown up in the area, Sato-san, so he knew where he could tie up the ropes and so that we could use them in case we fell. But he never fell because he grew up there. But there was a real sense of freedom climbing up those. Like there was nobody doing it besides us. I've never met anybody else stream climbing besides us now that I think about it. It was me and Sato-san. I'm sure there was other people. I'm sure there were. But I never saw them. I never saw one person stream climbing. And I tried to bring a bunch of people stream climbing. I told all my friends in Tokyo about it. And like 1 or 2 guys, 2 Japanese guys came with me. But once they saw the waterfall, they were too scared. And we didn't do it. We just kind of had a good day anyway. But anyway, stream climbing was the ultimate in exhilaration and freedom for me because in America, apparently, like Sean said, you can't climb a stream because a waterfall because that would disturb the waterfall, and there's something about you're supposed to protect it. It's part of the national park. Basically, the rules. There's rules. There's rules on nature here, and people can argue about the rules are good or bad or whatever the hell. All I know is there's not rules everywhere on nature. So just know that. If you know that there's no rules on nature in many parts of the world, or they're not enforced, okay? There's places where you can be free in nature, truly free, and just work out a deal with the locals. That in itself is a very powerful concept for you to understand. Because In America, for example, now that I'm here, I can see there was a sign when I was in Laguna Beach, and it said, "It is illegal to climb this rock on the beach." I was just starting to climb it, and I was with my parents, and she pointed out the rock, and she said, "Oh, there's a sign there, you can't climb that." And it said, "You will be arrested for climbing this rock." And it was funny to me because, one, I haven't rock climbed in years, but I really got into rock climbing at various times in my life, and I really enjoy rock climbing. And I'm a decent rock climber. Yeah, I'm not great, but I'm a decent rock climber. I'm kind of an amateur enthusiast rock climber, right? So when I see rocks, I want to climb them, right? That gets me into trouble because I often rock climb in areas where no one else rock climbs. So like rocks come off and there's snakes, and there's no signs, there's no ratings, 5.5, 5.10, 5.11. There's none of that. You just kind of like, you don't know. You have no idea. Is there going to be a rattlesnake? Is the rock going to come off? That's the danger in climbing without knowing anything, right? And that's kind of what I do. I just kind of climb. I find places. It looks like climbing. It looks fun to climb. I start climbing, right? And I did that all over China, all over Japan. Where else did a lot of climbing? Japan and China were really two great places for climbing, actually, in my opinion. Especially down in Sichuan province, down there. Did a lot of climbing back in the day. I don't know how it is now, but it was fantastic. I heard there was a lot of dangerous snakes, but I just figured if my time is here, my time is here. If I'm going to get bit by a snake and die, then that was what will happen, But I wasn't going to let that stop me from climbing because I considered it a risk worth taking. And it was. So the freedom, okay, so freedom in nature. Freedom in nature came from me knowing that parts of the world, well, I guess there's two things. One, I didn't know that I wasn't free in American nature. That's a key thing. You're not free in American nature because if you don't own the land, you're not free to do anything there. Because I don't know if you might think, okay, private land, you're free, but you're not. Because I know men that own a lot of land, and I've been to their land, right? We all went, the guys after the Ozark Summit, we went to Niles' property, right, where he had all this property. And Niles was super cool, by the way. And we did this fantastic rope swing and everything. And he let us rope swing in this quite dangerous area. Like, if you let go of that rope, you are going to break your hips, probably both your legs, and possibly die. Definitely could have a brain injury. And then if you held onto the rope long enough and you swung out to the river where it was deep enough, you were fine. But we were going way up. I forgot how many feet it was possible to swing on that rope, but it was pretty damn high. It was definitely 100% dangerous up there. But Niles let us do it because he wasn't worried about getting sued. But the problem with private land in America is most owners of land also know that if you're injured, let's say even if you're their friend, they're worried that you're going to sue them. So that stops you from being free, even on private land. Now, we were in a rare situation where Niles, actually, for whatever reason, he was so cool that he allowed us to take that risk. And we did it, and it was fucking fantastic. But also I knew what a rare gem that was, right? So you're not even free in private land in America due to the fact that he is liable, the owner is liable. So unless you own the land, so realistically you can't go out buying every piece of land that you want to explore, right? Part of exploring is exploring new things. If you own land, you're just the same land, right? That's not very exciting, right? So knowing that there are few lawyers and free places in nature to explore, there are Daniel Boone type of situations out there. Just knowing that is an amazing thing. You just need to know that. I'm not saying they're everywhere. I'm not saying they're easy to find. And you might not even find them if you just randomly look. I've spent my life traveling the world looking for places where I can be free and ways to be free. But I would say for you as a listener right now, if you like nature, you must know that there are places in the world where you can just camp. It might not be technically legal in some places like third world countries, but In a lot of countries, the law is different than in America. It's a different agreement you have with the government. There's a different agreement. So as long as you know that, there are rules, okay? The third world most definitely has rules. And you break those rules at your own peril. I'm not encouraging that. I'm not encouraging you to go and be an idiot and think you own the place. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you don't have the restrictions you have here. And there's different rules, and those different rules can definitely work in your favor if you like freedom. I'll just leave it there. Okay. But you have to work them out, and you have to work within the boundaries of the unspoken rules that are there. Okay. And give people the respect. But as long as you do that, there's a lot of things you can do that are just fucking amazing. So cool, like so fucking cool. For me, they're just fucking life itself. You know what I mean? Like, I just love being free in nature. I just love that. And so if you know that every time you look, here's one mindset to break out of slavery. Look around your country. So walk around. Every time you see empty land, just think, can I just start walking through that? Can I camp here? Can I climb that? Can I start a fire here and cook some food? Can I just wander through that? And if you see fences everywhere and laws everywhere and rules everywhere and risk, just realize that that's not normal. That is not how the world was supposed to be. It's not how the world is supposed to be. It's a compromise, a modern compromise that I think is a tragedy. It's a terrible tragedy, especially to young boys. That's really where it's the key thing. Young boys and girls. This is who really gets fucked by these rules, in my opinion. It is not the adult. It is the young fucking boys and girls. They're the ones who get fucked by these rules. The young boys and girls. Because the young boys and girls, they're the ones who are deciding, they are looking at the world and deciding, what can I do in this world? What is possible? Okay? That's what their little brains are looking at. What can I do? When they think of the possibilities and the limitations of life, they're constantly looking. That's why kids break rules. They're trying to find out where that red line is. Where is that line? And then why is this rule here? What is the purpose of this rule? They're trying to understand life, and they're trying to understand, I remember when I was a kid, I used to often think I could fly or something, because I couldn't understand, I'd look up and see birds and stuff. I was very little. I was thinking, probably can fly. I'd have a dream that I could fly. And I was thinking, I wonder if I can fly. Like, I remember there was an age when I was confused about what was real and what wasn't. I remember in my dream, I had a similar dream all the time. I had one recurring dream over and over, and it was a flying dream. And I would fly in this dream, and I'd be up high, and then I would suddenly realize that I only had my arms. And I would wonder, are my arms enough to fly? Are they I didn't know what words to use at that age, but I remember thinking, are they flat enough and big enough? Can they keep me in the air enough? And I would think, probably not enough to I remember this was my dream. I remember thinking it's probably my arms are not enough to I'm in the air, right? I'm flying. So obviously they're enough for something, but are they enough to go higher? No, they're not enough, Or are they enough to stay the same height? No, they're not enough. But are they enough to glide down safely to the earth and see a bunch of cool shit? That's how I remember thinking, could I glide down with my arms? In some dreams, I would start gliding down. And then again, I would look at my arms and I would see how thin they are in the dream. And I would realize they're not enough to glide. And that's when I would fall and die. In my dream, I would always crash to the ground. Sometimes I got pretty close to the ground before I crashed. And then I woke up wondering if I did die. I wonder if I did die because I was so close to the ground at that point. probably was okay, And my goal in these dreams was to get low enough that I could crash, without dying, basically. You know what I mean? Because I didn't mind crashing. That was fine. But so I think freedom in those dreams, it was really a dream of freedom because I was looking at my capacities and I was considering what is possible, like physically possible. The laws of physics, right? What is possible? And what are my capacities and where are the limitations, right? And then when you look at the world, you're looking at what are the legal implications and obviously the physical limitations, the real limitations, right? There might be a fear. You might have a very real fear of freedom, of danger, And I think in the old days, cavemen had a very real fear of being free because starvation, things like that, right? That they cannot make it, right? Like, how are they going to make it, right? How are they going to, what can they do? So there's anxiety, right? So anyway, wild beast, right? Okay, so I had a little brain fart there. So let's talk again about why you're not free. Okay, so one of the concepts I learned is that $10 rule. That $10 rule. I went around the world and I stayed in places for an average of $10. That's $300 a month. And even today, post-COVID, pre-COVID, it was definitely true. You can go around the world for close to $10 a night, even in 2019. But in 2021, post-COVID, it's more complicated because of obviously the rules of lockdowns and stuff, but there definitely are places that are open already. Mexico is open for one. There's several countries that are already open, and they offer this type of place, depending on where you go, right? So why was the $10 a night concept so important to me? The $10 a night thing was so important because unlike Bertrand Russell or all the people that you read about quotes about freedom, they always say, like, again, these ethereal freedom ideas. I need something real, okay? I need something fucking real. So what is real? $10 a night, that's fucking real. Or $15 a night, whatever it is now. Close enough. It's close to 10. Okay, trust me. If you're very cheap, if you use the cheapest travel books, if you travel the third world, if you trudge around the world, if you're a good friend and you can share and you can work out deals and you use your street smarts, you can do this. You can live for $10 to $15 a day in lodging around the world. All around the world. Okay? Averaging of $10 to $15 a day. That's $300, let's say $400 a month. And look around where you live now. How much are you paying for rent? How much did you pay for deposit? How much are you paying for internet? How much are you paying for electricity? How much are you paying for just basic repairs and, things around your basic situation, right? If you're paying more than $300 or $400 a month, you are choosing to live in one place at a higher cost than you could do like I did around the world. Okay, so you have to know that. Now, if you have a job where you can't leave and there's no way for you to leave and you just, you're in a situation where you can't, but most people are not in that situation. So for me, that $10 a night thing changed my life forever. In fact, I am different from most people in the world. When I traveled the world, not many Americans did it, believe it or not. It was Europeans that did it the most. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. It was Swedes, Germans, British, French. You met Norwegians. There were certain countries that did a lot of traveling back then, and they had like 6 weeks off a year, and their school systems were designed to give them long blocks of time, and that block of time was respected as a time when they could travel the world. The other people I often met was Israelis who finished the military. So men and women both have to be in the military in Israel. And when they finish the military, they're very young. They're like, I don't know what age it is, 21 maybe? Very young. And they travel the world. They often travel the world. You'll meet Israelis When you meet young Israelis, just ask them, did you finish the military? They're going to say, yeah. It's generally the situation. So they finished the military. Now they have some money in their pocket, and, they don't have a job, and they don't have a regular place to stay because they just finished the military. And that's perfect time. So it's kind of understood that they might take some time off and travel. There used to be a fantastic breakfast place that I went to in Bangkok back in the day. And it was all young Israelis. And I like Israeli food. So I found this place, and I would go there for breakfast, hummus and stuff. It was fantastic. And it was a good vibe. It was always full of young Israelis. And they were always all excited because they're all young and 21, and they're just enthusiastic. They're all talking obviously in Hebrew and everything, but I enjoyed going there. I really enjoyed that vibe. And so they had, I guess the mechanism freedom was there. Society allowed them to go. They had to do the military, right? There was no freedom in that. But after that, they had this time where, society said, hey, you did the military, you could go and travel a bit. And they did, right? They did. They took advantage of that. Now, Americans, North Americans, Canadians, Americans, Mexicans don't really have that. There isn't that. It's more of a conveyor belt, okay? You go to, you fight to get into good kindergarten. You go to kindergarten, you go to first grade, you go to fucking junior high school. There's this, whether you fight for kindergarten, whatever. It's a competition the whole fucking time, all the way up. And then you finish school, and it's this mad rush to get a job. And you get the job, and, when do you have that time of freedom? There's no, as much as there's talk about freedom in America, there's no mechanism for it. Society never allows you. There's no system for it. I remember when I finished school and I just said, I'm going to travel the world. And I didn't know any other American doing it. I really didn't. Not one single person I knew was making that choice, because I had to give up a lot, because I finished school with a business degree, and, that's the cost for me of that year of freedom was huge. I had a number of opporttunities I could have taken that would have made me very secure instead of traveling. Because I just finished, I was young, business degree in the 80s was pretty hot degree. The Wall Street was going crazy, the Wolf of Wall Street, all that shit was going on, and or Gordon Gekko type of characters were everywhere. And Silicon Valley was really, the whole Silicon race was really heating up. America was overtaking Japan in semiconductors, and there was a lot of opportunity. Apple Computer was starting, everything, the whole Microsoft Titans of Silicon Valley, that movie, if you've never seen it, it's fantastic. It's kind of that period, right? And so, but instead of that, I made a major sacrifice, and I said, I want freedom. And I chose less money, less career opportunities, and more freedom. And that changed my life, because I had already traveled to Europe, and I think that's what caused me to make that very difficult choice for freedom. So I hope that my voice can be your Europe trips, So my Europe trips showed me that life was very different in Europe as it was in America. And there were freedoms that I didn't know in Europe at the time in the 80s. In 87, 88, I went to Europe a lot. And I just felt very free. I was very neat. It was very neat. Didn't need a car because of public transportation. I could stay in these very inexpensive hostels they had in Europe. You could just hostel around Europe. Even though it was very expensive, Europe was expensive back then, they had a very soft spot for young travelers in Europe. They had a open space. You were not a loser, okay? In America, if you rented a cheap, let's say a Motel 6, you were staying, your comrades, people that were there, might be lowlifes, basically. People that had not made much of their life, engaged in crime, criminal records, not a good vibe, not the kind of, not the same age group even, not the same education, not the same mindset, obviously. Don't have to go into too much detail there. You could do it. You could live cheaply. You could rent a room in a trailer or something, but there wasn't, I think sometimes you need some sugar, right? You need a little bit of encouragement, I look at someone, young, just starting their journey of freedom, like Nelson, and I think you need a little bit of sugar. You can't just, the challenges are there, but sometimes you need a little bit of sugar to kind of help you out, And for me, that little bit of sugar was the fact that European society accepted young travelers. People were kind to me when they knew, well, they could tell my age just by looking at me, but I was a young traveler, just kind of getting out there and experiencing life. And, I might not have a place to stay one night and they might help me out because they're like, he's just sowing his wild oats, just checking it out. And that was accepted. And I really, that was important to me. It's very important to me because their acceptance of me, allowed me to accept myself. And that allowed me, I parlayed that into accepting myself when I came back to America. Because in America, there was not a concept of that in the 80s, that young people could just choose to travel the world and live on $10 a day, plus food, and just go around and just see things and just randomly explore. All the talk of freedom was always about owning something, like owning guns or owning a house, or it was not the kind of freedom that I am talking about here. The type of freedom I'm talking about is a different. I've already, started. If you know me, you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. It's a totally different kind of freedom. I'm not saying the other freedoms are not real or whatever, worth whatever the fuck they're supposed to be worth. I don't know. Whatever they are, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about the freedom to kind of go all over the place, camp all over the place, start a fire, travel, see a mountain, climb up it, meet a girl, sleep with her. She likes you, live with her for a while, move on, go to another place, see a river, jump in, realize there's alligators in there that are dangerous, get the fuck out before you get eaten, hopefully. Then, make mistakes. The freedom to make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I was in situations that were dangerous. And they were partly because lack of information. I would be in a new city, in a jungle, whatever. I didn't know what was dangerous. I didn't know what was safe. There was nothing. There was no sign to warn me about some things. But I had the freedom to explore. I also had the freedom to, almost to die too. The freedom to get almost killed by a cobra snake and things like that. I also had the freedom to see wild orangutans in the jungle. And there's no jungles left, by the way. Don't go looking for jungles. They're all cut down now. There really is no. Maybe in Brazil there is jungle. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I should say in Asia there's no jungles left. They're fake jungles, limited jungles, almost like a park. They have limits. There's walls. And of course that changes the jungle. Totally changes the ecosystem. Before there was like whole huge islands that were almost like continents that were just jungle, and those had a different ecosystem going on. And I traveled across those jungles, like in Sumatra in 1990, and there were roads, but there was very little to stop me. There was very little to stop the jungle. There was the beginning of, there was no, let's see, what's that oil? Palm oil. There was no palm oil yet, but there was cinnamon, and that was a big thing that was starting to ruin the jungle. There was things like that. There was tea leaves. Tea leaves were a big thing. Tea leaves started to ruin the jungle back then. I think they were growing the leaves for Japan, I think, because Japan was very rich. And so they would cut down part of the jungle and start making tea leaves. And then, unfortunately, they would burn the jungle. I forget what it was called. But they would burn jungle in the Philippines and Indonesia in order to clear the trees and then to plant tea. So that was starting. But I went into real jungle, and walked and took a bus across an area the size of California, Sumatra, and almost was killed several times. I can go into those stories at some point. Some of the most exhilarating days of my entire life, I would have to say. Yeah, now that I talk about it, it's turning my perspective. Sometimes I can't see things in my own life. No, Sumatra was probably a seminal 6 weeks of my life, actually. I landed in Medan and ended up at the very tip of Sumatra and then took a boat to Jakarta. But crossing that, it's about the size of California. Crossing that basically continent, it's not a continent, but like a continent, was for me the time in my life when I was the most free. I was free. It was wild. I experienced things that were just, I could write a book just about my time in Sumatra. And it's not the same as everybody's book of, if they were there. I did things that were very unique. I really got out there. I really fucking got out there. And I explored areas that you wouldn't recommend exploring because it was quite dangerous, Like basically, just in a nutshell, I won't tell the whole stories, but a group of traditional Muslim young guys, as young as junior high school, tried to stone me and a couple of Swedish girls to death. And we escaped, but it was fucking barely. And I'll tell that story sometime. It was a kind of a groupthink, crazy situation where I don't want to say it's anything to do with a religion. It was more to do with human nature. But it stemmed from the fact that the girls were breaking a rule. They had shorts on. And that was deemed, punishable by death, basically, by these young guys. And we escaped. But that situation, I will tell that story at some point. That's a fine story to tell. But I don't want to put it in now. But that, for me, at the same time, it was absolutely terrifying. It was really exhilarating, too. It was exhilarating. And it was so out of my box as a kid from California, like in Arizona and New Mexico and all these like border towns. I never could imagine running for my life through the jungle as guys were throwing rocks trying to kill us, and us finally, me finally coming up with a strategy that saved our lives. I mean, that was just the confidence I got from that. Because I made decisions in that time that saved our lives. And, it wasn't theory. It was real. And yeah, I felt like, I don't know if it was the first time I felt like a man, but I protected other people who were going to be killed, all of us. And like on the fucking fly. And also the absolute terrifying feeling when people are trying to stone you to death. Because stones are not a good way to die, just in case you guys, didn't really realize there's different ways to die. Like, dying from stones is not a good way. I think probably burning is probably the worst, I would have to guess. Drowning maybe is one of the bad ones. But stoning is a really bad one. Like, definitely. Eaten by a tiger probably would be pretty bad. Shark, maybe not as bad because it might end quicker. I don't know. I've thought about this because I've been in so many like death-defying situations that I think about these things like realistically. The reason why I do that is because I always like to know what it's like. And the reason is because that will allow me to put it into perspective so I can quantify the risk that I'm taking. A poisonous snake is another really bad way to go just because there's no way to know what the poison would feel like how bad it would be and how slow it would be. I don't know. And it would depend on the different types of poison, right? And where the snake bit me, closer to the heart, farther from the heart, and how much my heart was beating. And there's a lot of factors in what a snake bite death would it look like, And then you have death by dehydration, death by starvation. and death by bleeding, and I've thought about all these things as I've been in different situations. So anyway, stoning death, just the random nature of the size of stones and strength of the guy and close proximity to him, to you, and everything would be very random. Like you'd probably be sitting there for a long time alive before they finally did the final stone, right? It would be nasty. It would be very, very nasty. One of the worst ways. In the Bible, they talk about stoning, people that were apostates. And I think that's one of the worst. Just the randomness is quite terrifying. A shark bite is much more reliable because if a shark, let's say, bites your legs off, no matter how much it hurts, you would know that you would lose a lot of blood quickly, right? So it would be over pretty quickly, right? So whereas like stoning, it's like not so clear because they might stop and then start again. It's real people, right? So I remember anyway, I experienced a very, I guess, timeless kind of terrifying incident. And I won, I guess you could say. I won. I outsmarted it. And, me, just like a modern kid, I thought of a solution. I may as well tell you guys the final solution. I don't want to go into the details, but I guess it's important to hear. What happened was we were running for our lives. Stones were flying everywhere. Even understanding that is difficult, believe me. If you've ever been hunted down, you know that it's easy to ignore the first stone because you think it's a bird, or it takes a very great deal of awareness to even realize you're being stoned in the beginning, because a stone will fly by you and you won't even know it's a stone, and you will kind of easy to ignore it. And then the second stone, it was about the second stone when I realized we're being stoned. I didn't realize it. And then I realized it. The girls were totally in La La Land. I looked behind me and saw the guys. I'm like, oh my God, I think they're throwing stones at us, And then I saw them all pick up rocks, and then we started running, and we were running, and they were throwing more and more stones, and there was more and more boys, and the girls were not running very fast. That was the problem. The girls didn't take it seriously at first, so the boys were very athletic and they were runners. They were jungle. These kids could run, and so they could outrun us. I don't know if they could outrun me. I don't know for sure. I wasn't going to leave the girls, so I don't really know. But I saw that we were not going to be able to outrun them. So I thought of a solution. I looked around me, in front of me. What could I do? And I saw a bunch of cinnamon drying in the road and an old man there. And I thought, if we run, just in a hundredth of a second, I thought, if we run across his cinnamon, we'll probably have to pay for it, right? Which will be expensive, by Indonesian standards. But maybe that old guy can help us, because no one else was helping us. And that's what happened. We ran across his cinnamon, and he stood up, and he's just starts yelling in Bahasa Indonesia. He's just like, I can only imagine what he's yelling. It's like, get the fuck in, stop you motherfucker. He's just yelling at these kids. And he had the power, to stop these kids. He knew these kids. And he had the threat that he needed to, whatever it was, to stop these kids from doing what they were doing. Because stoning is one of these things, a groupthink. I forget what it's called. It's kind of like when sharks get into a feeding frenzy. It's this illogical group thing that happens. There's a name for it. But it's when a group totally loses its mind. You see this in any protest. You see people suddenly doing things they wouldn't do on their own. And that's what happens. I experienced this. And that's what happens with kids when a stoning happens. That is the factor that makes it so scary. Is a bunch of kids who are good kids or whatever, normal kids, they start throwing rocks and it gets exciting. And then everybody starts yelling and throwing rocks, and it becomes normal just to start to do whatever it is. You might see this in protests in American cities where people do things they wouldn't do on their own. And so in desperation, I ran across the cinnamon, and then the girls followed me, and we, crunched all his cinnamon up, And the guy he stopped those kids. And that's all it took was him, whatever he said, and then the stoning was over. Like stoning is not like a law. It's not like the police decide, or it's not like a death penalty. It's more like a moment. It's a frenzy. It's a craziness. And it's a very real danger. And by him calming things down and stopping everything, and whatever he said, but threatening, whatever he said, it stopped them completely. And they were almost sheepish then. And I mean, we were like terrified. I mean, to be honest, I didn't feel terrified. I was very clear thinking. And as I have always been in radical situations, and I don't know why. It's something in my makeup. I was absolutely clear thinking. Like I was thinking as clear as I can possibly think. It was almost like nitrogen was running through my veins. I was thinking as clear as my brain can possibly think, as fast as I could possibly think, and as freely, free revving as I could possibly think. And then after he stopped them, I remember like everything changed. It went from us running for our lives, and all of a sudden I realized, like I just slowly realized as I turned around towards the cinnamon, I realized how beautiful, it was weird. I realized how beautiful it was suddenly. Like we're in the jungle and the sun was setting and it was on my face. And it was absolutely beautiful because in the jungle, the sun very rarely sets on your face because it's so dark in the jungle. The trees and the jungle is absolutely dark and cold, especially at night, because there's no sunlight because it hits the trees and you very rarely get sunlight. But in this area, there was a road, and there was a couple of houses, and the sunlight was just hitting my face. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was maybe because I had just been almost killed. But anyway, I just all of a sudden realized like the beauty of where I was, because I knew I was safe. I looked at the smiling man's face because I went over to him to thank him, and I offered to pay for the cinnamon, and he like pushed me away. He's like, no. He pointed to the kids. He goes, it's their fault, basically. He couldn't speak English, but I knew what he was saying, is don't you worry about it, And it was cool. It was really cool. And he was definitely a Muslim guy. He had that hat that the Indonesian Muslims wear. So an older Muslim guy saved us from a young mob. So there's many ways to look at this story, actually, now that I think about it. Beautiful situation. And I remember thinking, like, to go from that situation, like nitrogen in my veins, to total peace and tranquility and sunset was amazing. It was amazing. And that kind of exhilaration, and that changed my life. I came back to the West, and I saw the way everybody lives. I saw the boringness of everybody's life. And I was horrified of humans not reaching their potential. That's really what I felt like. I felt like fucking humans. Like, what are you doing with your goddamn lives here? Like, the world is here, man. It's right here for you to fucking explore and fucking dive into the fucking pond, the swimming hole of life, the brisk, beautiful swimming hole of life, the river of life. And I don't know it's like everyone here, like in North America, was walking around with like a styrofoam suit on or something, insulated from the world. And they were getting fatter too. People were starting to get fat in the West at that time, in the 90s. Anybody who's listening to this who doesn't know the history, you got to know, Americans have not always been fat. It is not an American trait. Do not think that for 1 minute. Go back and look at videos of 1960s. Go to Woodstock videos on YouTube. Go Woodstock and watch the videos, and everybody's pretty much naked. Look at the people. Look at the Americans there. Everybody's ripped. Some of the guys have 28-inch waists. It's amazing. That was America. And that was the America that I grew up around, because I was born in 1965. That's the America that I looked around me and saw. Okay? And after that, something happened. And it's a tragedy. And that's something, has nothing to do with the geography of America. It has nothing to do with the color of the American flag. It has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with fundamental changes in eating and exercise and lifestyles. And you got to be an idiot not to know it could happen to you. No matter where you are, look in the mirror, whatever you look like, go look at your passport, whatever color it is, it could happen to you. It is real and it is encroaching and it is a tragedy. I look at it as a tragedy. It struck America first. It's like a tsunami that hit America and then it hit the UK. It's hitting Africa. It's hitting all over the world. And the key is not to figure life out, how to fix it. The key is to avoid it. Sometimes you can't fix the world. So you just have to, if you have something simple, if tsunami's coming, okay, the main damage of a tsunami comes in the first 15 minutes. After that, it's just water. If you look at the old Japanese, the videos of the tsunami, look what happens an hour after the tsunami. It's just water. It's just stable water. It's not really moving. It's not like a river. It's not like the ocean. There's not as big storm. It's pretty stable. The damage happens in the very beginning. So if you had a drone or if you had a balloon that could keep you in the air for the first 15 minutes of the tsunami, 20 minutes, an hour, you basically would escape almost all the damage. Now, you would have to live with the fact that everything's destroyed below you and there would be, pollution in the water and things like that. But sometimes you just need that fucking drone or balloon. There's a tsunami coming and you need to avoid it so that you can help other people later. You can't stop the tsunami, but you can fly above it for long enough, right, to get a perspective and to get out of danger yourself. And then, after you've landed in safety, see the tragedy around you. You might be able to help people because you avoided the danger. Certainly you can survive. And I think that is the goal. That is really the goal with this wave of obesity, is just to avoid it yourself at all costs. So if you have to eat vegetables like I used to, and I still am happy to do, in toilet seats, I'll buy spinach, I will wash it off in the bathroom, I will go into the bathroom and eat it by myself, sitting on the toilet. If there's no socially acceptable place to sit down and eat, I will find a toilet and I will eat there because I need to eat my vegetables. I will not let that tsunami hit me. I will not now, and I will not ever let my physical freedom go because of obesity. And that is one of the biggest dangers that exists for mankind right now, is obesity, because this is the very heart of it. You talk about freedom in nature or freedom to travel or whatever the fuck. Freedom to own whatever it is you want to own. Fuck that. The major freedom is getting out of goddamn bed and being able to go around the world. You can't go around the third world if you're fucking seriously obese, man. How the fuck can you do it? You can't get drugs out there, man. You got no address. Staying in $10 places, they don't take mail. You got to be able to survive with just you. You got to have no medical problems or very fucking few medical problems. And how you avoid that is by having good luck, right? Good genes. And most people on this podcast have already escaped that. The fact that you're alive means you've evolved, you've survived. The odds of you being here are 1,000,000 to 1, okay? 999 fucking 100,000, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm talking about. Those people are all gone and you survived. You were the survivor. So you've already survived a lot. And so here you are, okay? You're a survivor. Avoid this tsunami, okay? Then, freedom. Know that there is freedom in the world. Don't be resentful against your country. That's a waste of time. And that's stupid because you don't know very much yet. Wait until you know more to be resentful. And once you know more, you won't be resentful because it's a waste of time. And also, you'll understand. The more you understand, the less resentful you'll be. Okay, the goal of understanding, and the understanding that you also are your own your own jailer for freedom. Okay, that will help you to stop you from being too angry about these other people stopping you. Because you are also, if you look at the jail guards, you're one of them. stopping you from freedom. You don't realize that door that you walk out, you could walk around the world and swim around the world and take boats around the world. You never have to come back. And after you, let's say you go around the world, you come back to that door, you can walk again around the world in another direction. You could continually do that from your fucking house. And for probably, I don't know how many years it would be, at least 1,000 years, you could walk around the world in different directions and have totally different experiences on each one of those trips. The freedom is right there in front of you. Okay? It's right there at your door. Just look at your door right now. The freedom is right there, outside that. Okay? So understand, one of the reasons why you don't want to be resentful against lawyers or the courts or your government or whatever is because the freedom, that one of the biggest persons that stops you is yourself. And how you overcome that is by these concepts I'm talking about. Understanding, just understanding. Okay? Sometimes just understanding will give you, it will totally change your life. Sean was talking about this last night. And understanding sometimes comes from experimentation. You need to experiment before you can understand. You can theorize about going around the world, right? You can theorize about what it would feel like. You can theorize about what you'll learn. Or you can fucking just go do it, right? Okay, and then you will learn things, right? And that is where really learning begins, right? When you experience it, right? So I want to end this on the $10 concept because I think it's so important. It was so important for me, is whenever I get close to being trapped, okay, and for me, everybody has a different definition, but being trapped is, for me, is being in one place all the time. I would prefer to wake up in different places because I know the world is so big. See, a lot of people don't realize how cool the world is. And they think that whatever city they're in is basically the best. All things considered, it's the best place to be. Or they think it's total shit and they can't get out, whatever it is. They have these like limitations in their mind. I tell you right now, it's not about the best or the worst because variety is very valuable to your creativity, your mind, your experiences, your learning. You could have the most beautiful woman in the world, okay? Like the one woman who's the best at sex, the most beautiful. But does that mean that you are the happiest just being with her? Or would you be happy just cruising around, having different sexual experiences with different people and different situations, experimenting, checking out different types of women, seeing different places and being in, different types of thinkers, people that have different thoughts about life, that they respond differently to things. Everybody responds differently. That's the interesting thing about being intimate with girls. Like every girl's like totally different, really. If you know women, it's almost like I'm talking about the world being so unknown to you. The varieties of sexual experiences are amazing. There's a lot of them. And they don't come from being trapped. Okay, I'll tell you that. They come from at least having the possibility of being free. So for me, when I'm trapped by something, I don't have the possibility of being free. And so, see, the thing is like today I'm driving, Nelson and I are driving to South Carolina. I don't know what's going to happen in South Carolina. I don't know. I'm here in Pensacola. I'm very happy here. I'm looking outside. It's a beautiful day. The beach is absolutely gorgeous today. Pensacola Beach is absolutely beautiful today. The gym that we've been going to, the YMCA, is fucking fantastic. I'm having a great time barbecuing, cooking. Nelson's a great cook. Sean and I have been cooking. His brother's been coming over. We had some great prawns. I mean, there's a lot to say for Pensacola. The weather's warm. Doors open right now. It's beautiful. I'm very happy. I feel physically fucking great. I've been pushing myself in the gym. I've been putting on muscle mass. I've been, you periodically go through points where you're not, and then you put on more muscle. You kind of get to a new level. I've been putting on muscle mass the last month. I can feel it. It really feels fantastic. But by moving, okay, I'm kind of forced to move because I have a goal of something I want to do, right? By being kind of quote unquote forced to move, that forces me not to be free or to be a fat guy in Starbucks in Pensacola, right? I can't be, right? I can't, if I want to stay here, just like kindergarten, you can't stay in kindergarten, right? You have to get out of kindergarten at some age. They will not let you stay in kindergarten, right? I look at kind of most places like kindergarten, right? So I have to get out. Like there's a point where I kind of outgrow that place, that situation. And don't get the wrong idea. I think a lot of people really have no concept of what I'm talking about. So they're going to be thinking a lot of thoughts. They're going to think just so many thoughts. Like, let those thoughts go. Let those thoughts go. Just for a moment, see the world as a place that is a very large place with a lot of locations that are very cool, just like out your door right now. And you can be totally comfortable. You can have the confidence to be totally comfortable in those different locations. And there are people out there who act totally differently than the people you're around. They think differently. They act differently. I'm not saying they're better or worse, perfect or terrible, but they are different. You will learn new things. You will experience new things. And you will feel there are so many experiences to learn by going around the world, but you can't learn them by thinking. It's impossible. You need to experience them. That's one of the, in cyberspace, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just be in one place. And a lot of life has become quite good because of cyberspace. I'm not anti-internet. I love the internet. And I love the experience I have communicating with you through the internet right now, through YouTube, the people I meet, from the sharing and understanding of ideas, the way that we fit together like a Lego is different than when I meet people not this way, right? Through another way. It's a beautiful thing, actually. I can't really put words in it, but it's really a wonderful screening process for people. My channel, I really find Ronin Man to be a fantastic, and that's part of the reason why the summits are so awesome, because they've been filtered through Ronin Man videos. They've been filtered through the ideas and all of the gray areas I talk about. They're not filtered through black and white. They're not filtered through we're right, they're wrong. We're not filtered through unrealistic expectations. And because of that, they're self-filtered, the guys who either comment on the videos or come to summits or whatever. Join Unblackmailable. It's self-filtered. It's guys who themselves, they weren't sold on an idea, right? My videos are so long that nobody who was not fascinated with the concepts would listen to them at all. They just can't. They wouldn't. They just would not. It's only people who are like, I get it. They're like, I understand what he's talking about. Like, God damn it, I like this. And then they come up with their ideas, because I'm not creating the ideas. I'm like finding the ideas. Like I'm on the beach, I'm looking around and finding ideas, right, in life. And then I have no corner on the market of ideas. I'm just finding ideas and putting them together and saying, hey, look, there's these type of ideas, there's these type of experiences. It's almost like a guy on the side of the road with a bunch of seashells that he found. And then somebody looks at that and says, wow, those type of seashells exist. I think I've seen a seashell like that, but you don't have it there. But I've seen one. I know, over this place. And they go look and they find another seashell and they bring it. They say, look, see, this is different because of this. I'm like, yeah, that fits right into this fucking seashell collection, Like, wow, that's amazing. And then, because it's a collection of ideas that are from nature. They're from the world. We're bringing them together in a very unique way. And they're very difficult to describe, actually, how they fit together. But everybody who's on the same train knows they do. They're like, that fits in. That guy fits in. I don't know why. I don't know how. But he fucking fits in. That concept fits in. Somehow, that concept fits in. So the $10 a day idea, I would say the idea that you can stay in locations for $10 a day is my most important concept for freedom. Because without that understanding, I can know theoretically about freedom, but I can't really do it because you can know that you can go to London, okay? But how much is that going to fucking cost you? Okay? Who's going to be able to do that? Like, if you have the money, then you don't have the time. And if you have the time, then you don't have the money. It's just this conundrum, right? And if you have the money, you don't want to spend it all, right? Like, let's say you've saved enough for retirement. Well, you don't want to just go around in London and Paris and, staying in these expensive hotels in Bangkok and Tokyo, burning through money. And then you end up not being able to reach your goal of paying your medical bills when you're 90 years old, right? So everybody has limitations, just like my dream with my arms. We all have limitations, right? So the $10 a day thing is a very valuable concept, even for a very wealthy guy. It's a very important concept that you can live for. You can find places all around the world and rent them with no deposit for an average of about $10 to $15 a night. I mean, that just in itself is a stunning idea. It's a stunning idea. And it is a very true idea. Now, you do need street smarts. You need to know what's going on. Some countries are much better for this than others. And when you actually start your journey, I can get into the details of the dangers and pitfalls and the disappointments and the ups and downs and all that of that lifestyle. But to somebody who's sitting there who knows that his life is not working right, and he knows he has options, and he knows that there is a way not only for him to move, but to kind of like, almost like we were born. I say born, but the human race was wandering tribesmen until farming was invented, okay? Until farming was invented, whatever religion you are, this is same. We all were wandering tribesmen, okay? There was the wandering Israelites. Everybody's wandering around all the time, looking for food, looking for shelter, right? And then they would eat all the food, it'd be gone, they'd move around, they'd go to the next place. And meanwhile, the other food would come back, they're wandering around, right? And then we got farms and we stopped wandering at some point. And that was probably the biggest shift in history. It was probably the biggest. Farming really changed the average guy, the average person. Because don't say it's families. Because I know some families, and this is what my original plan was when I wanted to have a kid. I wanted to be a total traveling family where I wanted the freedom that I've seen in my life, and I've seen it with other people who have kids, that wonderful freedom. I wanted that regardless of what I did in life, right? Like, I want freedom. I wanted a person, okay, just like I always have friends that travel. Often I will travel. Like now I'm traveling with Nelson. Before I was traveling with Ray. I was traveling with Chime. I was traveling with, Adam. I was traveling with different friends, right? And I found a friend who temporarily was able to hang with me, and we were able to explore together. My trip around the world was by myself. And I found other friends, and then we would be together for a few months or something, and they would go a certain way, and I would go. We would have disagreements. They would go to Japan, I would go somewhere else, and then we split up. And it was this kind of friendship, and then we, maybe we'd meet again, and email, well, not email, but we ended up meeting each other on Facebook, and it's pretty neat that I'm still friends with the guys that I did the trip around the world with. And that's really amazing, actually, because they're from different countries, right? I'm amazed that we finally found each other. And it's been very wonderful for me, actually, to talk to people who were there. They were fucking there. With the fucking Cobra, with the fucking, the guy who robs me. They were fucking there. They know. We can laugh our butts off about it. But most of those guys I chose a life of freedom. Most of them chose not to keep doing that. But there's one other guy, actually, who did pretty much, not exactly what I did, but he was the closest to it, Peter, in Sweden. He ended up going to Brazil, and he has a couple kids in Brazil, He spends most of his time in Sweden, but he's got a lot of freedom. He's got a good life. He makes money in Sweden. And I think he stayed probably the most true to his values of the values that we used to value, right? So I think freedom is it's not a moment in time. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these quotes about freedom, Bernard Shaw, everybody, a lot of them, they're good. They point the way, but they don't give you a full concept and a set of tools. So I hope I've given you one tool with the $10 idea. It might be a little bit more, but anyway, the $10 idea, just have that in your mind and look for that. You might need books, like you might need Lonely Planet, or you might need a book called The Rough Guide, or you might need, if you're Japanese, you might need Chikyu no Rikikata, something like that. You might need a book that lays out the way to find those type of places, because there are books and there are websites now that you can search and you can find, they'll have like high-end, mid, and low, and then cheap. And cheap means under $10, basically, or about that $10. And all over the place, there's places that will do it. They might be very simple, They might be like a room with like several mats, and you sleep with like, say, 20 people. But hey, man, paying $10 a night to stay in a nice city and explore, and then the only sacrifice I had to make is sleep with a bunch of different people in the room. And I sleep good anyway. So, there was very few nights that I was like, quote unquote, miserable. And I would have been miserable anyway, because those were days I was sick, right? So I found that for me, learning to sleep anywhere was one of my top skills. I should add this. This is a very important skill. Learn to sleep anywhere. If you cannot sleep anywhere, you cannot be free. I will say it's that serious. You have to learn to sleep anywhere. Right now I'm sleeping on a yoga mat, 2 really thin yoga mats, and a sleeping bag in Sean's house in Pensacola. The floor is very hard. The mats are old. They're very thin. They are not comfortable. But when I was in the Philippines and rented a house for $40 a month, I slept on bamboo, rough bamboo with rusty nails sticking up, heads of nails, not pointed nails, not that end. I learned to snake my body into a position where I wasn't on the nail, and I would just like breathe and let myself relax, and I got comfortable enough on the bamboo. Boom, I'd fall asleep. And that was enough. I fall asleep, I wake up in the morning. So I learned a very important thing. I learned that when you sleep, okay, it literally does not matter where you are. Wherever you sleep is exactly the same. And I've learned since then that a lot of rich people don't sleep. Like they'll be in these nice hotels, like beautiful hotels, and they have insomnia because of a number of health problems and reasons that are very big dangers for rich guys, actually. Obesity is a real problem because you can eat whatever you want when you're really rich. And when you're skinny, you just naturally are more healthy and sleep better, right? But I learned to relax and sleep on bamboo. And I knew that was extreme. Okay, look, I rented, it was $17 a month. That's right. I rented a house for $17 a month in the jungle in the Philippines. Kind of a jungle type of place. It wasn't real jungle, okay? You would think it's jungle because you would look at it, say jungle. It wasn't jungle because it wasn't big enough to be jungle. But anyway, let's just call it jungle-ish, right? Jungle-ish place, bamboo house. You could see through the walls. There was chickens underneath us because we're up in the air. And there was a water buffalo roaming around all the time outside. He was tied to a tree outside the door. And the roosters would wake me up like as soon as they got light, like 5 a.m. And they were right next to my ear because they were underneath our house. And I rented a house for $17 a month. I stayed there for 1 month. And it was wonderful. I got to tell you, very fucking memorable. I definitely, and I learned I could fuck chicks on a bamboo bed with no padding at all, nothing, on the bamboo, no blanket, and that was amazing to me because I remember whenever I see Westerners who they say, oh, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to take first class in an airplane because I'm old or whatever. I got to say, I think they're idiots because they don't know. They don't know that the sacrifice they're making for that quote unquote freedom is ridiculous. Also, they don't know how comfortable economy is. Economy is incredibly comfortable. I have slept for days on buses, on the floor, underneath the seat, okay, in a third world, okay, on a 2-day bus ride, more than once, 48-hour bus ride, where I'm sleeping on the floor with people's feet on my back, okay, and the floor is rusted through so I can see the ground passing me. And the metal's hot because the axle is not far away. You can see the axle right there below you, the rusty axle just turning. And I was trying not to fall through the rusty hole of the bottom of the bus because I couldn't sleep in the seat. So I chose to ask everyone to move their feet, and I slept on the floor. And nobody else did it, but I did it. Because once I snaked in there, because for me, I have this one weird thing. As long as it's flat, I can sleep. So I can sleep on concrete with no padding at all. No towel, nothing. I can sleep on absolute concrete. No problem. It takes a little bit of time. I need to sit there. I need to totally relax I got to get my hip bone or my tailbone comfortable. I got to move around. I got to move my shoulders, kind of slowly adjust. It's totally uncomfortable. Every time I think it's not going to work, boom, I'm asleep. And I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I cannot fucking believe I did it again. I slept on fucking concrete. But I learned that. But I have to be flat. I don't like if it's not flat. That's one thing. I have one weakness, it's sleeping. I hate sleeping on sofas because it's not flat. I hate sleeping in car seats. I hate sleeping in airplanes. As long as it's fucking flat, I'm totally happy. Yeah, that's my rule. I just need to find a flat place. That's it. No, I prefer. I'm not saying I'm not a masochist. I prefer to have a mattress or a yoga mat or something. But hey, man, if I got to sacrifice, so if I got to pay $100 a night and I cannot be free because of this stupid fucking inability to sleep, I'm going to work on it. So if you want to work on the number one skill to be free, if this idea is making sense to you, learn to sleep anywhere. And I love people who can sleep anywhere because I know they can hang with me because it's going to be a challenge. I can sleep if there's mosquitoes. I can sleep if there's flies. I can sleep if there's, you know what I mean? If it's hot, I can sleep if I have to. If it's cold, I don't like that. I will wrap myself in anything so that I'm not cold. I mean, I will literally wrap myself in a blanket that is absolutely the most filthy, smelly blanket used in barns and oil and gas. And I'll wrap myself in it. And as long as that warms me up, I will choose that over being cold at night. And I'm sleeping on concrete. That is totally fine with me. As long as I don't like to be cold, if I can help it. I don't like to be cold and I like flat. So basically warm and flat. That's my two kind of things. It doesn't matter what's on top of me. As long as anything keeps me warm. I spent the night one time, it was very cold that night. It was only 5 degrees Celsius, but I guess what is that? Like 40, 30 something Fahrenheit. But it seemed really cold because I had shorts and t-shirt. I was in northern Sweden in the summer. And we broke into a military warehouse and there was these big sheets of styrofoam, like military, really hard styrofoam. Anyway, I found a way that we could lift them up. They're real heavy, super fucking heavy. These huge sheets of styrofoam. I don't know what they were for. Anyway, the other guys couldn't find a way to get comfortable or warm. I basically lifted it up. It was hundreds of pounds. And then I lifted it up. I got in between like a sandwich and I put it on top of me. And here it is like crushing me. But I was so much warmer because I had styrofoam on top of me, styrofoam on the bottom of me. And there was less wind. It wasn't so drafty under there. And it was actually after I could get over the weight of the thing on me, I was reasonably comfortable. And I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning. And that allowed us to continue traveling in Gällivare. Anybody knows northern Sweden? I was in Gällivare above the Arctic Circle. And I met a wonderful fucking girl the next day and fucked her for weeks. And it was fucking awesome. And Gällivare is one of the high points of my time in Sweden. And it was because we got to Gällivare and there was no place to stay that we could afford. And my friend, I was traveling with this guy, this old Swedish guy who was homeless. And he was a very cool guy, actually. He was not a homeless guy like you would think. He had been a hippie in the 60s. He had been to America many times. He spoke English. He was funny. He had been to India. He was cool. He was totally cool. He was a weird guy. He was not like you would think of a homeless guy. He was fun. He was fucking fun. I think his name was Ulla. Yeah, I think it was Ulla. Anyway, me and Ulla's idea was to go into this military shit. He said, hey, we can get in there. Don't worry. And we snuck in. There was nobody there. It was empty. It was just storage shed. We didn't hurt anything. We just lifted up fucking styrofoam and slept underneath there. He couldn't do it because it was too heavy for him. He's a little bit heavier than me. And it was like too much crushing. But he never didn't sleep that night. I did. And so I think knowing that you can go anywhere, and if you really want to, you can find places all around the world for an average of about $10 a night, $15 a night max. An average. So you're going to get fucked a couple nights, right? You might have a $60 night. You might. But not many. Maybe in London or something, you get fucked one night. Sometimes you have bad luck. It can happen. But if you average out the other nights low, it'll come out. You'll see. If you know that, and you can sleep anywhere, okay, and you understand the value of freedom of living and of waking up in new places, you might not understand that right now. You might think, there's an old saying in the Middle East, right? And there's a guy, and he was a traveler in the desert. He came up to an old man. He said, what's it like down there? And he said, where are you from? He says, oh, I'm from this place. And he goes, what's that like? He goes, oh, the people are all mean and everything. And backstabbing. He goes, oh, yeah, it's the same down there, right? And then he says, oh, another guy comes. He says, where are the people like that? He says, where are you from? Same story, right? And he's like, oh, the people are good. He's like, oh, the people are good down there, right? Because what you bring to it is what you experience, right? And there's another story. The guy said he had just come back. I said, where were you? I came back from the city over there. And he says, have you ever been there? Oh, haven't you been there? And he goes, no. He was like an old man. He goes, why didn't you go there? And he goes, well, it's the same barking dogs over there. He could hear the dogs. But he had never been there. He had never traveled out of his village. He said, it's the same barking dogs over there, right? A lot of people have that attitude. They have that understanding. But I will say, if you have that understanding, question it. Because there might be the same barking dogs over there. But you might not be the same barking dog over there. Your experience of the exhilaration of freedom of movement, freedom of creation, because you tell people who you are. You create your own persona. As you live in a place, you are Mr. Brown, you are the engineer, you are this, you are that. That's all stuff you created. The world didn't tell you to be that, even though you don't feel like it. But when you travel, you realize how much you've boxed yourself in. You chose too early who you wanted to be. It's like a kid who chose he wanted to be this when he grew up. You chose who you wanted to be when you grew up too early, before you knew all the options. And when you travel, you realize that. And you realize that it's not about hiding, it's not about escaping. It's just like you choose based on what you know. Like your favorite food might be hot dogs when you're a certain age because you don't really know other food, right? But the more food you know, your favorite food is probably not going to be hot dogs anymore, right? A lot of your persona, the way you look at yourself, your self-image, your job is hot dogs. Just because that's all you fucking knew when you had to make a decision, right? So fuck hot dogs, basically. There's better food than hot dogs out there, right? And when you travel, you realize that. And you realize that you're more capable than you thought you were back then. And you have more knowledge and you have different, there's all these things that you will learn. So the barking dogs, yeah, they might be barking dogs over there. But when you finish your journey, or if you continue, whatever you decide, you will realize that It might not have been easy. There is sacrifices. There are compromises you make in every choice you make in life. But you will realize that it was totally fucking worth it. And you will, I can't say you will. I say I do. Look at most people as zombies, as hot dogs. Because I know they don't know the options available to them. You know, like I'll see a guy, I'll just end on this, but I'll see like a young, handsome guy working at Starbucks. And he's a barista. And he's sitting there. The fucking dude is handsome as fuck, right? And I'm thinking, that dude could be drilling chicks overseas. Like, his confidence could be so high. Like, that guy could be fucking killing it, right? Or I look at a guy who's in an area where he's being fucked over. Like, let's say he's a minority. And that minority doesn't have the same opportunities as other places. And then I know people who travel the world. And they come from minority groups where that minority might not be, it might be being fucked over in a certain area, right? But when they travel, they realize that they're not really that minority, because you are not a minority. You are not the label people give you. You are you. That's the first thing you realize. But the second thing they realize is that them, who they are, is treated differently in other places. Maybe because of their passport or whatever. Doesn't matter. Take advantage of what you can. If you get treated well, fuck it. Nothing wrong with that. Don't worry. You're going to get fucked over by plenty of people. You can't stop that. You can't stop people treating you nice either. So accept it, experience it, and get out there. If you want freedom, it's there for you. Freedom is there for you. So stop, and this is my message in this video, back to there's many messages actually. Probably more important messages I've already said, but one of them was to say to Sudarshan, stop saying that guy's enslaved and start looking at yourself and say, am I walking out that door to freedom every day? Or not every day, obviously, but what am I doing? Where am I enslaved? Where am I a hot dog? Right? Where am I a fucking hot dog? And what other choices do I have? Right? Because you can overcome everything. You can fucking overcome everything. I've seen people do it. And I'm not going to get into details because that would be more in my personal coaching. But I see many options, okay? And it's got to be specific to who you are, right? And options that you want, right? And I can't do it in a general video. It's not possible. I can only talk to a general audience. That's what I try to do here. So I hope these general concepts, like the laws of physics, will allow you to start to come out of your eggshell, right? Because everybody listening has things that they're enslaved to, that they're holding on to. And we all do. It's not those guys out there. It's like, what are the things that are holding you back? And the reason why that message is here is you can pat yourself on the back for the things you're doing right. But don't do it too much. Don't be giving yourself too many hand jobs. Just do one thing and move on. Elon Musk, is he sitting there going, I got Tesla? No, he's doing SpaceX. He's doing this. He's trying new things. Just be like that. I'm not saying he's a great guy. I'm just saying, like, be like that, where you're just constantly, you're just like, you're a machine. You do one thing, give yourself a little hand job, a little pat on the back, whatever, move on. Okay, what's my next? What are my other things? What else can I improve? Because your time is limited in this world. Your time is fucking limited. So don't waste it. Don't waste it giving yourself hand jobs, because that's a waste of time too, for the freedom that you have achieved, because there's more. And it's more that will pay off in ways that will make your life greater. So there you go. Thanks for listening.